start. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the June seminar series of the Scholarly Communication Network. Our speaker today is Fawzi Shamsi. He will talk about English anxiety among early career researchers as a second language. I want to introduce Fawzi shortly. He works at the Eastern Mediterranean University in North Cyprus. He completed his master's degree in English language teaching and his PhD in foreign language education at the Eastern Mediterranean University. Fawzi's research interests include academic writing, teacher education, teaching through technology, and second language acquisition. And after this brief introduction, I would like to give the floor to Fawzi.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is fine. It will be really a great chance for me to present here. So I will share my presentation here. Okay. Shall I just keep it like this? Is it fine, or shall I make it? Is it fine here, like the screen?
It's fine. It's fine.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. So our presentation for today, the webinar, will be about anxiety of English language use among early career researchers, native and non-native speakers dichotomy. Actually, it is one of the challenges for non-native speakers, like publishing in like a language rather than their language here, what problems they face, how they might avail these challenges here, like feeling that they are disadvantaged for being non-native speakers. So we'll talk about these issues here in terms of publication here. Of course, the presentation will talk about the following. We'll start with an introduction. We'll have the linguistic challenges. We will have sources of linguistic challenges and anxiety. We will have genre challenges as well. And the sources of genre knowledge and anxiety, we'll talk about the difference between linguistic challenges and genre challenges. And then I will suggest some strategies to avail publication challenges. And finally, we'll have the references. So to start with here, we have something which is called writing for publication. Now, it is defined by Highland in 2016 as learning to write for a professional peer audience. The process by which novices, which means that early career here, are socialized into the academic community. To be honest with you here, writing for publication is not a new field here, but it's growing more and more to the extent that it's now, let's say, it's a kind of must for many people. Let's say for faculty members, it's something which is called publish or perish. Now it's like there are many articles in the related literature that call it like this, publish or perish. We also have publish or no degree for PhD students. Now, more and more universities are requiring PhD students to publish articles in highly indexed journals before their graduation as a kind of condition for their graduation. And this is now called publish or no degree. And actually, I was one of those people who finalized his PhD in such a context. And of course, nowadays we have another trend, which is thesis by publication, where you can graduate by publishing several articles, putting them together as a thesis, you see? So it's like growing more and more now, and more people are looking for publication skills. And here, actually, the challenge comes. Of course, publication is considered as a stock in trade for authors. It's a very important thing now. If you want to promote yourself, to get a better job, to like, it's like another added, like another skill to be added to your CV. At the same time, unfortunately, we don't have sufficient studies about publications, especially for novice authors. Yes, the literature is has many studies about publication, what challenges there are, some suggestions whatsoever. But unfortunately, up to now, they are not sufficient here. These studies are not sufficient. according to many different researchers like Atchison et al. And Maher et al. Now, here, this is very important here in this presentation to clarify. According to Zhu 2019, writing for publication or socialization in the publication field needs two things, not one thing here. Linguistic knowledge and genre knowledge. Now, non-native speakers always feel that, as I said before, they are disadvantaged for being non-native speakers, and that their articles are rejected because they are non-native speakers. To be honest with you, there is a kind of thing which is correct a little bit here. Yes, we will clarify this later, but it's not the only case here. We have also the genre knowledge, which is quite important. And between these two terms, there is a kind of dichotomy, which is called linguistic knowledge versus genre knowledge. You see, there is a kind of challenge between native and non-native speakers about that. We will explain it right now. Now, regarding the linguistic challenge first here. Now, of course, when I say linguistic challenge, it means that what is the perspective of non-native speakers? Because non-native speakers say that it's more about the language that prevents us from publishing our articles, or it's not necessary to be article, chapters, or whatsoever. The genre knowledge is the claim of native speakers. We will see some comparison between them. Now, let's start first with the linguistic challenge here. Of course, the linguistic challenge, as a definition, again by Zhu in 2019, says that it's the tendency among some multilingual novice writers, which means here, those people who are, for example, from many different countries, rather than the inner circle or English-speaking countries, who need to publish in English. You see, so this is here as I said here, the tendency among some multilingual novice writers who attach more importance to developing language competence than other things in the process of learning the language to write for publication. So the basic focus of non-native speakers would be here in this case, especially the novice ones, would be that the language rather than any other fields here. Of course, the main challenge of non-native speakers would be English language, Highland here. So Highland says that. So again, it is very it is proved that non-native speakers have a challenge, and this challenge is a main challenge here for their publication. Now, non-native speakers also believe that they encounter more challenges than native speakers. So they are disadvantaged, let's say, for being non-native speakers because they are not writing in their language. And of course, native speakers consider that publication challenges originally come from, as I said, from the genre knowledge rather than the linguistic competency. So here we have two different groups. Native speakers and non-native speakers. Non-native speakers say that language is the main problem and they focus on it a lot. On the other hand, native speakers, so non-native speakers, they say the language. Native speakers say that, no, it's the genre knowledge here. Let's see some comparison. What non-native speakers say here. They say, for example, we have a kind of stigmatization for being non-native speakers. In a study for Fazil 2019, Fazil reported that there is a study, one of the interviews in his study was that a student who was a native speaker sent an article for publication, but he received a rejection saying that revise your language or by a native speaker. So the student, the author was saying that this is a native speaker. So how come that you say to him that your language is weak? Ask the support of native speaker. So here they say that it's a kind of we take the native speaker as a model. So if your language is good, it means you are a native speaker. If your language is not good, it means that you are a non-native speaker, and it's a point to be given here. To be honest with you, many reviewers, unfortunately, give this note even without focusing on the language. Sometimes the language is good. I myself have that problem here. The language was quite good, but it was like, improve the language. Okay, improve the language where? Show me where. But it's just because a feedback to be given, or whatsoever. One more point that is like claimed by the non-native speakers is learning rather than acquiring the language here. At the end of the day, they are learning a language which is not their first language here. They are talking about a language that needs to be learned from the scratch. Native speakers, on the other hand, acquired the language since they were born, you see? So the vocabulary, in terms of vocabulary, expressions, what is correct to be said, what is not correct to be said, the grammar, whatsoever, they don't have this skill, let's say. Another one would be, it's not their L1. So this is related here. So it's not my L1. I'm writing something and I don't have that self-confidence in writing here. At the same time, it's the language of publication. Highland says that it's basically the language of publication, especially in prestigious journals. Now, according to one of the studies here, I didn't add it here, it says that 77%, and I think that the percentage is increasing now, of the world publications now are in English. But researchers are not just coming from the English-speaking countries, they are coming from many different countries. So let's say Chinese students, for example, have to publish in English. Turkish people have to publish in English. People from many different countries have to publish in English. Again, here it's a challenge that is blamed by non-native speakers, and they're right for that. We have writing for publication curricula. The design of the books, unfortunately, target native speakers needs rather than non-native speakers. In other words, let's say that if I have a curriculum, if I have a book, for example, that targets the writing for publication skills, it would focus more on the challenges encountered by native speakers rather than non-native speakers. Non-native speakers have the language as one major part here, but it's not that much targeted here. They are not taught, for example, that much how to make paraphrasing, how to avoid plagiarism, for example, how to like, what is the best style to be written in the introduction or whatsoever. And also we have a bias in peer reviewing. So the peer review process is usually blind peer review, but still in one way or another, they would feel that this is a native or non-native speaker. Maybe sometimes the editors might even reject certain articles because they come from certain contexts, because of like, let's say maybe the interest is not like they are looking for more prestigious people from wealthy countries, first world countries or whatsoever. On the other hand, native speakers have their own claims as well. So they say writing actually is something to be learned rather than acquired. So they said that we didn't learn writing when we were born. We learned that from school. So you learned writing as non-native speakers, and we do the same. Another claim that they had is that nativeness doesn't directly affect publication. Yes, according to Tradi here in 2009, he says that, yes, there is a kind of effect, but it's not a direct effect here. We have also challenges at the paragraph level. Native speakers also suffer from writing at the paragraph level. In the sentence level, they don't have much problem, but once it comes to writing a cohesive paragraph, they have a problem here. Also, writing for publication is not part of the native speaker's inheritance here. So you're saying that it's targeting us. Well, actually, we didn't learn that. Again, it's something academic that we learn at university. And finally, the challenge is in the genre knowledge, as I said before. So it's not the linguistic part, it's the genre knowledge. Now, sources of linguistic anxiety, usually, which means that non-native speakers more, would be, first of all, word and syntax choice. What is the word that we need to choose here? Which sentence to use? Which tense to use? These are the challenges here. Also, we have L1 influence. Like if a person who is Arab, for example, and writing in English, there is a kind of like effect of the first language here in the way of thinking, in the expressions, in many different ways. Poor vocabulary here, and vocabulary, it's not necessary just to be the general language here. It's like about the hedges, the expressions that are special in the field of publication. We have low academic writing skills. People learn writing, but they don't learn academic writing. They are similar, but I mean, like the level should be higher with academic writing. Writing a paragraph is different from writing for publication, for example. And unfortunately, let's say in some universities where there is a kind of prep school, or some preparatory courses for English before going to the master or PhD or even whatsoever, the language which is given, like language courses that are given, are general rather than that academic, like let's say writing for publication. And also we have restriction to a simple writing style. They prefer to write in a very, like non-native speakers prefer to write in a very simple style, which is a high level, which leads to a high level of rejection. Consequently, it's a kind of an anxiety. Like the author would feel that my style is not that much, I think that I will get rejected. Again, it's a kind of an anxiety. Also, absence of authorial voice here. When you depend on proofreading, the proofreading would improve the language. So where's the voice of the author here? Where is the level of language that you should express by yourself here? So again, this is a kind of source of an anxiety. The author says the idea, but the proofreader changes the language completely. So the author doesn't feel that this is his own or her own, let's say, work. Genre knowledge, on the other hand, it's like, as I said here, it's like for non-native speakers. For native speakers, they claim that rejection is not because of language. Basically, according to Konyam, it's in 2012, it's basically because of the content, if the content is weak, or because of the methodology. So it's not the language. Yes, language could be an indirect effect, another assisting effect, but not the direct one for rejection. Content is quite important, and methodology is quite important as well. There are like some rules of the game that should be mastered by authors here. So it's not just the language that we need to focus on. As I said earlier, the language is the major focus of non-native speakers, so they feel anxious about it. But actually, this is a kind of problem for them because they don't focus on the rules of the game. For example, how to find a gap, revising the literature, designing methodologies, data collection, data analysis, writing the discussion, eliciting remarkable conclusions. These things are quite important. So if non-native speakers just put their efforts on language only, it means that they will avoid these things, which means that the rejection rate would be higher. Another model here by Flower and Hayes shows here that writing process model here. Actually, it shows that it's not about the language only. As you can see here, we have knowledge of the topic, the audience. You need to think of the audience, the plans that you need to have, the environment where you are collecting your data, the research problem, these things, and then the writing comes. Yes, writing is one part. Here, as you can see, we have things related to planning, translation, and revision. These things are important, but it's not the only one here. So basically, non-native speakers, because of they feel that they are less than native speakers, so they just focus on this area here, which is the writing process, and they avoid the other parts, which means that the higher, their rejection level is higher than. Now, what sources of genre knowledge challenges would come here in this way? Basically, incomplete introduction or literature. Maybe many people would focus on the language, but they don't know how to get the needed studies to be included in the literature review, for example. How to start the introduction, the way we need to start to like, let's say, to hook the readers. We don't think of the readers as well. You see, we just think of writing the article, but we don't think of the reader when the reader would read that article, being the editor, reviewer, or even other scientists who will read it once published. We need to think how we can attract them, to tell them that how to sell our article, as they say. Problematic introductions and discussions here. Again, the introduction is one of the most important parts, and the discussion as well. Like, okay, I got these results here. So how to discuss them, how to get the idea in a very clear way here, let's say. Unfortunately, there is a weakness here for both native and non-native speakers. Lose of focus. At sometimes, let's say that our focus is going on the right way, and out of sudden we take another way. We don't focus on our study. We start taking a detail and going further with that detail. So the reader would feel a little bit confused. or a lot sometimes. So losing the focus of the study was about X, and the let's say the article starts with X, and after that it finishes with something like Y or Z. Overcrowded data. This is a very big problem. Unfortunately, once collecting data, early career authors usually, especially, would think that we need to put all our data that we got here in our articles, you see, which is quite wrong, because we need to get the most important and remarkable things based on our research questions, based on our target journal, based on many different factors. Now, after these things here, we will come to some strategies that might avail these challenges here. But before that, let's just summarize it here. Non-native speakers feel disadvantaged for being non-native speakers. Yes, it is it's a kind of let's say factor that affects, but it's not the only factor. And focusing on that factor again would lead to difficulties, because we are avoiding the other things, such as, for example, the genre knowledge. Now, what strategies we can adopt in order to improve our, let's say, publication skills would be, according to this study here, I highly recommend this book here for Mood 2020. There are 5 types of strategies to be adopted, to be adopted by authors. Of course, there are a lot, but you can find more from this study here. Let's start with the first one here. It's like discursive strategies. After that, we have metacognitive strategies, and after that, we have cognitive strategies, social strategies, and affective strategies. So we'll talk about all these things here in detail. Now, to start with the discursive strategies here, we have one example: awareness of textual level features. We need to know, up to now, like I'm talking here about like myself as an previous English teacher, and because like my field is English language teaching, I can tell you that up to now, people, once they reach the level of B1 or B2 and they need to produce the language, their major focus would be grammar, tenses, past perfect, continuous, how to use that one. They don't know how to use the language wisely here. What is the, for example, the level that I need to write here? What kind of grammar I need to use here? Once I'm reporting something, do I need to use the present simple or the past simple? What kind of vocabulary I need to use here? What is the level here? Sometimes some people write an article with the language level that matches the let's say a local journal, but they send it for an international journal. The level of text in terms of language varies based on the journal. So this could be a very important thing here. Let's say that I have a journal and I'm targeting that journal. So let me just read several articles here and find what suggestions they have, in terms of gaps. But at the same time, I would read the language. What level of language are they writing? Are they using very rarely used words? What about the expressions that they are using? What about the tenses? What about these things here? Another one would be structuring the argument properly. It's very important to sell your idea here. You need to show the argument. You need to show why your article should be published. It's really important not to just go and say that, okay, we have this study in the literature, and after that, I will do that. No, show me where the gap is here. Structure it well. This is very important. Negotiating the strengths of scientific claims here. You, at the end of this study, you claim 1, 2, 3. Tell me why these things are quite important. As I said before, sell me your idea here. This is very important to focus on. Here, we are not talking about language anymore. Yes, we will sell our idea using language, but if we focus on the beauty of the language and we forget the, let's say, the power of negotiating our claims, in this way, definitely we'll get it rejected. Now, what about the metacognitive strategies? We have to select areas of studies. Unfortunately, up to now, especially with early career authors, They don't know where their research interest is. Okay, let's talk about, okay, there is a trend about, for example, multilingualism. So let's publish a lot multilingualism. Teacher education. So we'll go for teacher education. We have this X, Y, Z. No, you should be specialized in one or two areas and do extensive reading there. So to know what is there in order to find a gap. So it's not any field that I can publish in. I know some people, unfortunately, who might publish from business administration to education to tourism to whatsoever, even not the same area. It's different field even. It's like jumping from here to there to whatsoever. So this could be one of the problems. Interpreting editors' letters. Let's read the editor's letters here. What does it say here? When I get rejection, for example, what does it say? Why it is rejected? Usually they give me feedback. They tell me, for example, as I said earlier, we have the content problem. We have the methodology problem. So like, let's analyze it. What does it say here? What suggestions that they give? Editors, reviewers, or whatsoever as well. Now, writing directly in English, actually, many non-native speakers prefer to write in their first language and after that translate it into English. It could be something good here in order to guarantee the content, the strength of the content and the methodology. After that translation would make it in English. But again, here the weakness, because we don't have the, like two languages that are exactly the same here. So the language weakness would appear. It is like, this is my point of view, to learn how to write directly in English. Of course, considering the journal's expectations here. I remember once I got one article and I wanted to publish it. So I sent it to a journal and I read the scope of the journal. It was like my article was fitting in the journal scope, but it seems that this scope was a little bit wide. So they were focusing at a certain type of that scope here. So let's say it is about, for example, let's say teaching via technology. Okay, now we're talking about teaching via technology with COVID-19, not any kind of teaching via technology. You see here? So this should be taken into consideration. We need to read like the targeted journal that we are writing for. We need to read more about them. We need to read what are their latest publications. And based on that, we can like start our research. What about the cognitive strategies here? We have using published articles as models. This is a very important skill that you can follow. Get a very famous author, let's say, especially I'm talking here about early career authors. Maybe they are not working academics, maybe they are master's students or PhD students. It's quite important. Let's say that there is a study that was published in England, for example, by a very famous person in that field. Okay, let me get this article and write something similar. I can apply something similar. I don't say plagiarism here. I'm conducting a similar study. I'm trying just to elicit the way that that article worked on, and I like it will guide me here. To which extent? How many words can I write for the introduction here? What kind of methodology? To which extent I need to explain about the methodology? How to integrate the discussion with the literature review? How to match, for example, what recommendation I might give here? That might guide a lot. Extensive reading, this is very important. And as I said earlier, it's very important to read, like to have, sorry, an area or two, not more than that, and try to focus on what these two areas, for example, are published. What articles are published in these two areas, sorry. Revision, this is very important. We shouldn't just write our article and directly send it. We need to take our time, revise our articles, maybe get it revised by someone else, taking different perspectives, you see. So somebody would play the role of the editor for us or reviewer or whatsoever. So because that would give us an insight. We would like our work, but others would think more objectively, you see. And of course, collecting useful expressions. This is very important. Throughout our reading here, let's say that I'm interested in teacher education. So I read always, for example, about teacher education, and I see that there are certain expressions that are repeated, and they are really good expressions. So I take them aside, and I should have a kind of list of vocabulary expressions that can help me a lot in writing my article. So I would follow the style, I would follow the expressions and vocabulary. Social strategies, this is the part which is quite important. Unfortunately, we cannot avoid it here. Number one, knowing the editors in person. Unfortunately, we need to have connections here. So maybe attending conferences, like meeting editors, trying to, like, we need to expand our connection, let's say, like our connections circle, you see. Cooperating with specialists. This is very important. As an early career author, it's very important to start publishing an article working with others, especially those who are specialists in the field, because that would give you a lot of experience. Co-authoring is a very highly recommended skill. Also, we have attending workshops, webinars, conferences, because that would give you a lot of insight about what is the new to be targeted, what is the future research suggestion here, what is still not done here. Maybe you can meet new people and have connections, as we said earlier. Co-authoring with a native speaker, or let's say not a native speaker, like a person who has a very good writing style, writing for publication style. So maybe we can have 3 or 4 people working together, especially early career authors usually have other responsibilities. They have personal responsibilities, academic responsibilities, administrative responsibilities sometimes. So sitting down and writing an article from A to Z would be not that much easy. Therefore, maybe we can have one person who's a specialist who might plan the research. 1 or 2 researchers, those who are early career authors, they might conduct the study and work under the supervision of the specialist. And we can have somebody who has a very good writing style to improve the language and to write it with one, let's say, with one style. Because when you have 2 or 3 people, everybody writing one part, you would feel that there is no harmony between the other parts, and readers usually feel these things here. So co-authoring with good native speakers, or for example, good English writing authors would be really recommended for non-native speakers. And finally, the affective strategies here. I'm sorry, I've taken much time. No, it's like on time here, so we'll have some more time for questions. The affective strategies here, we have motivation for publication. It's very important to think that I need to do publication because I want to do publication here. I want to research. It's not because I have to. Yes, I understand the stress that non-native early career authors encounter. Like, they have the challenge of the language. They don't have much genre knowledge. They have other duties, as I said earlier, academic duties if they are working at university, for example, like administrative duties as well, personal duties at home. They are like usually grown adults. They have families, you know. And if they are PhD students, for example, they have the pressure of the study. They have to finish their courses. They have their thesis, different things here. But motivation for publication would definitely help a lot in improving our publication skills here. And the second one would be patience. In my PhD, like my research was about article publication challenges for PhD students in a publish or no degree field. I collected data from first, like the data had like multi-levels, let's say. I started with interviews with 19 PhD students who are working on their articles from many different fields in a certain context. After that, based on the interviews, I designed a questionnaire. Let's say I like piloted it, and after that, I collected data from 147 PhD students who were working again on their PhD on their articles. Based on that, I had a group discussion to discuss the results with 8 PhD students, and interview with 6 supervisors, and interviews with 2 policymakers. What I can tell you here is that patience is part of the process. difficulties, challenges are part of the process. So unless you feel there is a big problem and you are suffering while writing and you are getting rejection, it means there is a problem here. You need to feel that you are suffering. Because you should have patience and you should have challenges, because let's say that if somebody gets an article published, and I know a person actually who got the article published by chance. It was already a master thesis, so he or she got some parts from here and there, put them together, and he asked somebody to review it, and he sent it to one journal. It got published. But what about the real knowledge here? He didn't learn anything. So in the future, as a future supervisor, as a future researcher, he has no experience. Yes, you can graduate from your PhD. The same thing goes for academics or faculty members here. You see, you need to suffer a lot. So it should be in the long term. We are working on this article. We have a plan, but okay, we got a rejection, no problem. We will get it. We will learn more from the feedback that we got. These things are quite important here. In a nutshell, let's say here, non-native early career PhD, non-native early career authors have a lot of challenges. Language is one of them, but we should, of course, we should learn more. We should improve our vocabulary, our style, whatsoever, but we shouldn't focus on language only, because research is not just the language, it's other things. We have the content, we have the methodology, and the suggested strategies would be really important. Co-authoring with specialists, co-authoring with good English, authors, like English, like people who are able to write in a very good way in English. You see, by this, I would say that I hope the success for everybody, and I'm ready for the questions. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Fawzi.
This
was a really great talk. You have pointed out very important points for all academics, mainly the early career researchers. I have a comment and a question. We use English editing services or companies for many of our articles. But after using these services, we got the same comments for the language for almost all these articles, as you also mentioned while your talk. This is because we were from a non-native country, and this makes all the comments of reviewers about the language really biased.
Yes.
And this was my comment. You said the same thing. We are also aware of all these, and we live all of these. And I have a question. After noted my question, I saw this same question from Zehra, because we talk about these issues a lot while drinking our coffees. My question is that after writing an article in English, what is wrong about improving its English or making its proofreading using an IE tool instead of an English editing services or proofreading services? For me, it is same, but I'm really curious about what you think on this issue.
I see. Okay, thank you so much. It's quite important here, actually. Let me just first, briefly talk about your comment, and after that, I'll answer your question here. For your comment, one of the interviewees that I had during my PhD said to me the same thing exactly. He said that I got my article reviewed, and they suggested getting my article proofread. The journal works under a big umbrella of journals, you see, and they asked him to send it for proofreading. And of course, that organization offers proofreading services. He said, I sent it for proofreading, and I paid a lot of money. And after that, I got one word changed only, but I got it with a certificate saying that my article is proofread by that organization. So he got it published. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's a kind of like, we cannot say that all the time, but sometimes it's a kind of, let's say, business now, unfortunately. So I agree with you. Sometimes you send the article for proofreading, but still you have that feedback here. Now, regarding the use of I tool, like Grammarly or whatsoever, I highly recommend using it at the sentence level and at the vocabulary level. So, yes, of course, I myself use it a lot. For example, let's say maybe while writing, I might have a kind of like spelling mistake or whatsoever that cannot be detected by words, but usually it would be detected here. So that would help a lot. Also here, maybe like a kind of word order or maybe adding the or whatsoever. So as I said, at the sentence level, but at the paragraph level, it's really important from the beginning to be written with a very strong style. I don't say strong style means a native speaker style. No, it should be just a person who has good experience in academic writing or writing for publication. That's it here, you see? But even that person who writes, he might have some mistakes here and there, so it would be corrected with the I tool here. Nowadays, we have the AI. Again, it might improve things here. So I highly recommend using that. But if there is any kind of weakness, it would be, for example, in the flow between one paragraph and another, the flow between different, let's say how to show the contrast, for example, how to use the language with complex sentences or whatsoever. That would be better to be co-author. This is why I said maybe co-authoring with a person who writes with a good level of English would help a lot in writing it in one harmony.
Yeah, you are right. I totally agree. And I have another comment or questions, or I want to take also your idea about the issue. I think improving your English writing or English speaking mainly is something that's an economic issue. What do you think about it? Because we want to attend to conferences, but it is almost impossible now if you don't have any support from your university or from any other funder. And if you cannot attend to face-to-face conferences, it is really hard to improve your English. Yes, we have like this one, online conferences or online webinars, but I think that face-to-face ones are a bit different. So what do you think about this issue? Is it something economic to be a good English speaker?
Well, first of all, I will tell you something. The problem of non-native speakers, and I'm one of them, is that we think that our language will remain weak until we become native speakers, which will never happen. We always compare ourselves to native speakers. You see, look at the way that they are saying that expression. I don't know this word. Look at their pronunciation rate. But the idea here is that it's their language. It's not our language here at the end of the day. I want the language which is sufficient for the conference, sufficient for article writing, sufficient for co-authoring with people here, you see. I'm talking about my field, for example. Many of the authors that I cited, by the way, are non-native speakers, and they are the most prestigious people you see in the related literature here. Like Fazil, for example, Zhu, Mu, those people here, they are very famous people, but they are non-native speakers. At the end of the day, if I'm focusing on pronunciation, especially pronunciation, people want to make it British accent, for example. If I have this accent, it means I have a good language. No, it's not this case. So if we improve our language, we need to think that we need to improve the things that we need for the conference. So what do I need for the conference? I need presentation skills. I need good vocabulary. I need, for example, to speak fluently. And I need to put in my mind that if I have mistakes, no problem. At the end of the day, I'm a non-native speaker, you see? So let's say that if I say there is two people, for example, okay, where's the problem? I'm a non-native speaker and it happens, but this mistake doesn't affect the meaning, you see? So people, the attendees in a conference while presenting, for example, would not feel that there is a problem at all. You know what I mean? Now, based like according to your second part here of the question, which is about the economic part, yes, I agree with you. Unfortunately, unless we get support, it would not be that easy. But there is something which is very important. Nowadays, there is a kind of like research centers that are looking for some publication for their fields here. So during the summer, for example, they call for, like they say, faculty grants, for example. We want some people to come here, collect some data, publish under our name. So, and in return, they pay for that, you see? So it's tit for tat here. So, okay, maybe during the summer, we can go for these ones here. We need to find some funding sources, you see? Unfortunately, as you said here, like taking part in international conferences is really important for connections, for improving our skills, but it's not available all the time. This is why here I said the source would help us a lot in attending a very international conference once a year or once every 2 years, but even the local conferences would help a lot, you see? So, I mean, like the idea is that not to stop attending conferences, because like even with those ones here, they would have speakers from famous, internationally recognized universities and researchers. So again, here it's a good experience for us.
Thank you so much, Fawzi. Zehra, do you have any question?
I think there was a question, but yes, there's a question from Barbara. She wrote that there's a way to differentiate if a non-English author has used ChatGPT to improve the writing or used the expert proofreading English speaker instead, or that author worked hard to revise themselves. What do you think about this?
The use of ChatGPT. I didn't hear the last part, but the use of ChatGPT, right?
How reviewers can identify that? She's asking how reviewers can identify the difference between ChatGPT writing and the expert proofreading. Is it possible to differentiate between these writing styles?
Okay, I will tell you something. To be honest with you, unfortunately, up to now, it's not detectable. You see, unfortunately, up to now, this is a new field here, new growing experience. ChatGPT, I tried it myself, to be honest with you. I wanted just to know whether it works or not. So I haphazardly said something, and I said, for example, I want to conduct a study, let's say, for example, in this field, okay? So suggest me like a good research. So it gave it to me, you see? And after that, I said, okay, can you suggest, I will talk about this issue here. Can you suggest some research questions? It gave it to me. Now, once you put these things on plagiarism programs like Turnitin or whatsoever, it wouldn't detect it because it's something which is created by a machine. I think that this is why the field of research will change a lot in the upcoming 10 years. Because now, of course, meanwhile, till it develops, we would have a lot of people who might get their articles published using ChatGPT if they have this AI experience. Unfortunately, there is nothing to do up to now, or maybe we need to ask ChatGPT about that.
Yeah, maybe it's a related question. I use ChatGPT for some announcements in my website and for checking some grammar issues, but I don't like the sound of writings of ChatGPT because it differs from my style. I have a style of writing, but ChatGPT make all the writings similar. I don't like this kind of style. And maybe we should use ChatGPT or Grammarly or different kind of AI tools, but I'm afraid it makes us lose the sound, our own characteristics of writing.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The author voice. Yeah, I totally agree with you. The author voice here would be lost because, like, I need to start maybe, for example, my article with a story. I might start my article with something, you see, like a certain way here. I would increase the number of citations that I do in the literature review or whatsoever. This is my style. I use certain keywords here. So ChatGPT, yes, exactly here. But I mean, like, it's something to be felt by the author, but not reviewers and not editors here, unfortunately, you know. And nowadays with ChatGPT, it's able to write you 2,500 words in one click. So if there is a very intelligent person who's able to guide ChatGPT, he or she would be able to write a full thesis in a day.
Yeah.
You see here, unfortunately, and unless we develop AI again to detect those people, we would have a lot of graduates, we would have a lot of people publishing, parasiting, you know, and getting their like promotion, but actually they did nothing.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we don't have more
Yes,
questions.
I was checking if we have any more questions on YouTube. And as I see, we don't have any more questions. Thank you so much, Fawzi. It was a really great talk, and you really pointed out very important points. I remembered a webinar last week on multilingualism because the things you said was very related with what the speaker said at that multilingualism webinar. So thank you so much. I hope to have you again here for a second talk.
Hopefully, thank you so much. It was really great chance here, and I hope that like we will have more webinars in the future. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.